There's a spell I'll never tell. Yeah, I like you, that's for sure. Never have to close the door.
Hi guys, welcome back to Exmo Lex. Today I am once again joined by my amazing husband, Brendan.
Hello there.
I know you guys love it when Brendan is in my videos, so today we're doing another one together. Today we're going to talk about mistakes that we made when we first left the church.
We didn't make any.
We're perfect. So yeah, we have made lots of mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes that, I mean, they're not necessarily even like mistakes. It's not like we were like doing bad things. It's just that there's things that I feel like we would do differently now than we did then with the knowledge that we have now. So for me, the first thing that kind of comes to mind is that there were times where I sort of assumed that somebody was on the same page as me with church and religion when they weren't really, and I probably should have talked to them more explicitly about the way I was feeling before assuming that they felt the same way. So for example, when I first left the church, I talked to my dad like a little bit about it, kind of just scratched the surface, telling him like what my feelings were and what I was going through. And then a few months later, after we hadn't really talked much about it, I tried to talk to him about it again, thinking that like he's in the same place as me. Like he gets what I'm talking about. When I have complaints, he's going to understand and sort of empathize with me. And that ended up not being the case at all. It kind of backfired and we got in a big fight over it. And I've always felt kind of bad about that and wish that I had actually asked him exactly how he felt and been more clear about the way I felt instead of just assuming.
The thing that comes to mind first is just being such a weenie about trying alcohol. It took me forever to like really be okay with trying it, and then when we did try it, we tried wine, which was
that was us trying to be classy.
Yeah, if we leave and we drink at all, we're gonna be classy drinkers, so we're just gonna have like a glass of wine occasionally. It's disgusting. I hate wine. It tastes terrible. But yeah, it took me a long time. I really wish I had not been such a weenie about it, but I honestly didn't know any better.
I would say that when it comes to alcohol, I actually kind of wish I'd taken it slower. And it's like, we've talked before about how a lot of times when somebody leaves Mormonism, a lot of things that they've not been allowed to do that are suddenly like not a sin, you overindulge a little bit like a teenager would. It's not like the end of the world, but I do wish that like I'd been like held back a bit more.
Yeah, there were times I wish I'd held back more too.
Yeah. So another thing that comes to mind is the way that we talked to our families about it after we left and they initially found out. I mean, it's hard to say like what exactly I would have changed because...
Or what would have happened differently.
Yeah, because we don't know how, you know, people are going to react in any given situation. I remember specifically when I told my parents, we kind of felt like we were backed into a corner and we had to say something. We didn't really want to.
Not as much yours.
Yeah, but we felt like if we told yours, we were going to have to tell mine because yours would probably tell them because that's just...
Yeah.
Brendan's family wanted to start doing the Come Follow Me curriculum, like as an extended family. And we had recently left the church. And so we were like, well, we're definitely not going to be participating, but we didn't know how to say that.
It was like within the first month.
It was right after we left.
Like, you've got to be kidding. Because we just kind of wanted to ride for a little while and not say anything and just kind of figure things out.
Yeah. It didn't work out that way.
And of course.
So I don't know, it's hard to say exactly how we would have handled it differently if we hadn't felt like we had to come out to them as not Mormon anymore like that. But
I maybe would have told them differently. I didn't tell them in person because of the way that they react and handle things, especially my father. Because it's always an argument and there's never an opportunity to win the argument, even if you're right. So I did an email and tried to make it courteous and polite. I don't know, maybe, looking back, I maybe could have talked to them in person about it, but I feel like it would have just resulted in them trying to coerce me to come back instead of trying to see my point of view at all. I've even thought about, like, I should have gone and started talking to this stuff, or talking to the bishop and the stake president about this stuff and have them start cracking down on me, then maybe my family would have like taken my side. I don't know.
They very well might have. I told my parents over a phone call, and I can't remember if I like did FaceTime. I think I did. I think I FaceTimed them because they don't live close. And I didn't really tell them any of my reasons why I left. Like I kept it as like simple as possible.
Kept that out of it.
And they never really asked why I left. They still haven't really asked. And so I kind of wish that I had like, I wouldn't want to like go in depth on anything, especially if they weren't willing to or ready to hear about it. But I do wish that I had brought up like a few basic things about why I left the church and why I no longer believed it was true, because I feel like maybe that would have given them something to think about instead of just being like, oh, my child wants to not be Mormon, they just want to sin, you know.
I don't think they think that.
I don't think that they would have thought that. My parents are like really, really good people and they're pretty non-judgmental, but I still kind of wish that I had put a bit of that out there because they never asked. And I wish they would have, you know what I mean?
Another thing I maybe would have done differently is when we left, I also tried to kind of talk to my brother who was currently on his mission about it. And I thought he would be more in a place where he would see eye to eye with me because we've always been pretty close. And I mean, if he's watching this, I don't know if he is. I have always been truthful with him. I've never, ever lied to him about, I mean, there are stupid things you lie about when you're children, but when it comes to major things, I've always been honest and truthful with him. So I kind of thought that, like, spilling some stuff to him would get him to open his eyes, but when you're on a mission, you're very headstrong, and he certainly was very deeply rooted. So it didn't really work out super great, and he had some bitterness towards me for a while about it. He's come back and since like apologized for the way that he was thinking and everything. Him and his wife are still members, but now we're like really good friends. It's like nothing really happened. And I don't know if he wants to know more about it or not. I feel like maybe in time he will, but
yeah,
who knows?
Either way, especially when somebody is really like in a position like being on a mission, there's not a whole lot, you know, that's gonna change their mind on anything. Unless
they're already teetering and have questions. And
if they're like fully in, it's probably better to not, because it could backfire and potentially hurt your relationship. Yeah. And honestly, like,
I got lucky that he still talks to me.
Exactly.
Because it could have gone much worse.
When it comes to something like that, like in certain situations, your relationship is going to be more important, and that's definitely one of them. So
yeah. So another kind of related one is that after I'd been out for a while, I reached out to a relative of mine who I thought was like pretty far away from the church and done with it and everything, which is true. But the point of this is just be careful who you reach out and talk to, because I thought we were just kind of shooting the breeze and chatting about, you know, the church's BS. And yeah, he's like, yeah, I don't go anymore. I've just never had any interest in it for a while. But then turned around and started talking to people about it behind my back, and that included my parents, and
acting like you were like being really weird and stuff.
Weird and trying to push anti-Mormon stuff on him, which was not the case. I was just asking basic questions about, have you heard this or this? And he'd be like, oh no, I hadn't heard that part, that's crazy. And like just normal conversation, and I thought we were buddies, and but it was no big deal. And come to find out, like, that person's parents are pissed off at me for talking to him about it, and I'm like, there really wasn't much that went on, and most of it is stuff he'd already heard, and he doesn't go anyway. So
yeah, so you just, I mean, yeah, you got to be careful who you talk to.
But it could be some something worse, say in your situation, viewers, if you talk to somebody that you think is kind of on the same page as you and they turn around and backstab you, just, yeah, it could
or if your family doesn't know you've left yet and you trust somebody not to tell,
yeah, they can
and then
spill
they
the
do,
beans.
I mean, that could be really difficult as well.
Yeah.
There are times where I think about how I should have handled it differently with telling our bishop, because we like stopped going immediately once we realized, oh, the church isn't true. We stopped going.
Yeah.
And our Bishop Rick immediately, like within a couple weeks of us not showing up, reached out and wanted to talk to us. And I was like, oh, great. Like they noticed so quickly that we weren't coming. And I ended up like talking to the bishop and another member of the Bishop Rick just a little bit. And there's times where I think, you know, maybe I should have stayed and like spoken my truth and seen what happened.
I didn't
like
even talk to him.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had brought some things up, because I just was like, I'm done with this. I don't want any contact.
Yeah. And it's not like the way we handled it was bad. Like, it was very non-confrontational. It was, I mean, decent closure.
I had to go drop off the resignation letter at his house, and I should have probably just talked to him. But when I was walking up, I could see through his window, he had sat at his computer and pulled up a specific church video and had paused it because he knew I was coming over. So I just like slipped the envelope in the door and tore out of there. But I kind of wish I'd just like, I mean, now I feel a lot more confident about my knowledge of church history and different things that have happened.
Yeah.
Where, like, if I could go back, I'd be like, no, there's this. Please try to answer some of this for me.
And he wouldn't have been able to, because I did talk to him. I brought up some of my, you know, concerns, and he didn't know what I was talking about.
I think a lot of leadership just isn't aware.
It might have been interesting to stay a member and bring those things up and see where it got me with the bishop and with the bishopric, and you know, see where my questions landed me, basically. Like, I've wondered,
or other ward members,
if I brought it up in lessons, if I, you know,
we should have
things, and if eventually they would have got angry at me for questioning, if I would have gotten excommunicated. When I left, I was like, I don't want to be associated with it anymore, and I don't regret that. Like, I'm glad that we did that, but part of me wonders if I had gone on a different path, would I have been excommunicated, and what would that have looked like? How would that have been different? How would that have affected our families if they found out that we were excommunicated simply for questioning?
Yeah.
So
it could have been a good thing for
and it definitely, I mean, like I said, I don't regret it. It went along with the personality I had at the time, which I feel like was more of that cult personality where I was trying to blend in, say yes to everything, and just like go with the flow. Whereas now I feel like I don't take shit from people as much, and I've learned how to say no, and so, you know, it definitely probably wouldn't have worked out the same way just based on the way I was back then versus the way I am now, but it's something to think about anyway.
I feel like on that same topic, it would have been fun or funny, or just should have maybe gone to the temple one more time and maybe even ask some of the temple presidency, if we were able to, some of those questions in the temple and see what they did. I don't know. Would have been interesting.
Yeah. I kind of do wish that we'd gone back one more time.
Just to, with new eyes, to be like, damn, this is hokey.
Yeah.
I feel like too much time has passed since I left now. But in that same phase where I was finding out stuff, I feel like I should have maybe reached out to mission companions and converts that I helped baptize, to kind of ask them some things and see what they thought about some of the stuff we were finding out in a more like conversational way, instead of like, the church is wrong, this is why. And maybe could have helped a few of them as well. I mean, I know there are people from my mission that I knew that have left also, at least one companion. But that's something else I maybe would have done a little differently.
Well, we hope that some of these ideas of mistakes that we made and things we wish we'd done differently might help you guys as you're navigating leaving the church. It's definitely not easy. There's lots of things that I'm not even sure was it the right decision, but at the same time, like, it worked out okay. Like, things are good now, and I definitely can't like regret anything that we did because it's led us to where we are, and where we are is really good. What are you doing? That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Do it again. Before we go, I do want to mention the one thing that I feel like I did the most right when we first left the church. So you're not just getting an idea of all of my mistakes. I think the best thing I did as soon as I read the CES letter was I told Brendan about it.
Yeah.
I didn't, keep that to myself in any way, shape, or form.
And keep researching alone.
Yeah. I told him everything the second I found it, and we looked at it together. Our communication was really, really good, and I wasn't about to go down that path by myself.
No.
And I feel like that was the best decision I made.
I'm glad that that's kind of where I'm at too, as far as the best thing is that when you brought that stuff in front of me, I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna look at any of it. Nope,
Yeah.
Bury my head in the sand like all TVMs do. Many TVMs do. And chose to go at it with an open mind.
With all that said, that'll be it for us today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And special thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. You guys are the best. Special thank you to Craig Call, Doug Davis, Mormon Land, the guiltiest place on earth, Jason Wilkins, Melissa Jane, Tans, and the Exmo Candle Company for supporting at the Demon tier on my Patreon.
Way to go, Demon Slayers.
If you guys would like to support the channel, you can find links to do that in the description, as well as links to all my other social media if you want to see more of my content. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Never revealing no secrets you're keeping. These promises strong as a spell. I'll never tell.